Hey, what's up, everyone? Nick and Sheen here from the Real Heroes Show to talk to you about the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 3, entitled The Streets of Mos Vespa. Mos Espa. Yes, there will be spoilers and a lot of colored vehicles in this episode, but we're going to break this down to you real simple. We're going to talk about our dislikes, followed by our likes. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it first and then come back here and hear us rant and praise this episode. So with that
Mostly
being said, mostly rant, yes. But Shane, how you doing today?
I am good. I'm not as good because of the episode, but overall, can't complain.
Yeah, I think we were all hoping for something a little bit better, especially
Yeah,
after coming off a pretty decent and good
yeah, I really
episode
liked the
two.
prior episode, and we both liked it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this was a bit of a step back.
Yeah, and there may be a reason for that. But
Yeah.
but let's just dive right into the dislikes. So, the first thing I really disliked about this episode were the colored bicycles or Vespas that
Yeah,
these teenage cyberpunk. I don't even call them a gang. They're not even some sort of squad, but um, you know parentless teenagers. Something out of like Peter Pan and the Lost Boys.
yeah,
Like, with cyborg parts. Like, they have no money, they have no jobs, but yet they have what looks to be very expensive vehicles
yeah.
because those things are like spit polished, clean. You can see your reflection out of them, and they move like 5 miles per hour.
The
And
slowest
the
speeder chase of
slowest
all
speeder
time.
chase of all time. Like, that whole speeder chase itself in the city, in the streets there, just did not look good.
It was awful.
And especially in that last little like swoop turn at the
Yeah,
end, it
yeah,
just looks so corny and just not good and
yeah.
did not fit.
It feels like this is where we talked last episode about the direction differences between Steph Green and Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And this felt much more along the lines of Robert Rodriguez type of direction.
Yes.
I mean, it's like that little race in Spy Kids 3 with all the like little speeder things. It reminded me so much of that. And
Yeah.
it's just like, this just looks goofy. Like Star Wars, especially this show in particular, is supposed to be kind of gritty and like dark.
Yep.
And this just like stuck out like a sore thumb. The
Yep.
tone was all off. The camera angles were very flat. Like you had the close up on the little alien where he's like, move out of the way. There's like a sorry, I just hit my mic. Move out of the way. There's a protocol droid and like all this comedy, and they like go through the Ralph McQuarrie concept art painting.
Yep.
It's like, what am I watching right now? This is not Star Wars.
Yeah, totally out of place for a show that's supposed to be gritty, and it did not fit any sort of theme. It definitely belongs on another planet.
It belongs in the trash. Belongs on the cutting
absolutely.
Room
Yeah, I don't know why that was in there. I think it would have been far cooler if the major domo is escaping. Boba Fett flies in the air with his, because we see him land.
Yeah.
So
what's he doing the whole time?
Yeah, why couldn't we just see him and then launch his rocket? Not kill the major domo, but launch his rocket in front of the speeder, so the speeder crashes into a crater in the ground. He's not going to go anywhere after that, and we save time of pointless chasing on Vespas, and and then you actually can fill that time in with better story, other great parts that should have been in this episode.
Yeah.
So again, like we were saying, directorial approaches, which again, this follows Robert Rodriguez's suit from the first episode, and just out of the gate, I'll say that the second episode is still the best of the three. I think this is probably the worst of the three.
Yeah, agree.
So far. So
I didn't really love the first one. I know I wasn't on the show to talk about the first one, but I didn't really love it. Like the direction was kind of okay. Nothing really happened. And then that second one, it was like, okay, they really have something here. And then after I watched this, I'm like back to how I felt after episode 1. I'm like, this is just not working.
Yeah, it's like went up and then just back down again.
Yeah.
So, very curious to see where the rest of the season is going to go, since we're we're a third of the way through. So they've got some making up to do story wise. The other thing I didn't really like in this episode, which has a lot to do with the story, is how soft they're making Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He between him and Fennec seems like the more badass bounty hunter. And sure, you could say, well, Boba says he's an ex bounty hunter. Yes, we understand that, but he's a crime lord who
Yeah.
refuses to do any sort of crime and wants to do some sort of respect. And again, he gets challenged by what's happening. You know, like there's an assassination attempt, doesn't really do anything. He is attacked by a badass Wookiee, doesn't kill him or doesn't do anything like that. Like decides to set him free. Uh, I again with the whole kids, the whole hiring of the teenagers. Like, no, that's not how you battle the Pike Syndicate or anyone else in some sort of war. I don't care if you have a palace or not. Like, that's not how you're going to survive a war. So I really hope that they start to bolster up Boba Fett's character and make him this notorious character again, because now he's soft.
Yeah, it's very weird, and I guess they're kind of showing that he was kind of affected by. So, I mean, this is spoiling the stuff I liked about the episode, but the
Sure.
scene where he sees all the Tusken Raiders murdered, thought that was a
Right.
really powerful scene,
It
and I
was.
guess that's kind of how they're pointing along the way of like he's become like caring and empathetic and stuff like that. But it's just weird coming from Boba Fett, like the most badass looking character from the original trilogy. Like
Yep.
everyone's expecting him to be this like menacing bad guy, and instead he's like a big softy. He's like Han Solo, kind of.
I think there's room for him to be empathetic, but I also think in terms of he can't he can't be empathetic if he's dead. So he has to survive, in order to survive, he has to be able to, make example of things or of people, especially
Yeah,
the circumstances that he's found in so far. Um, I am okay with him growing as a character, but I still
yeah,
think there needs to be this remnants of who people have known him to be over the last 30 plus years. And again, even for the sake of uh, the Bounty Hunter trilogy in the books, granted, I know that's from Legends now, but same thing. Even after he escaped the Sarlacc pit, he didn't become soft. He still went back to who he was, because just because you escape a Sarlacc pit and go, "Oh my God, I had a second chance at life. I need to be nice." Like, listen, you're a bounty hunter, and I think sure maybe the sort of the followings and the teachings of the Tusken Raiders have obviously had an effect on him, as we
yeah,
see, and we'll get more to in a moment. But for the sake of you going into Jabba's palace and just downright murdering Bib Fortuna,
yeah.
there was that.
Where was
Where
that?
is
The
that?
whole yeah,
Where's
exactly.
that been
I
in three
don't get it.
episodes?
The
It's
whole impetus of this show was like Boba being this anti-hero, and we haven't seen him do anything violent really this entire show. Has he killed a single person? Well, I guess he blew that one guy up with his rocket thing, but then
yeah,
he told her like, "No, no, no, keep him alive."
yeah,
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
yep,
He's a good guy,
yeah.
and that's
Meanwhile,
not what
Fennec's
the
like,
show is.
you're right. Fennec's
Or
like,
should be.
should we keep him? Should we kill him? Like, just we should shoot him. Like, oh, let's make an example out of, like, hey, listen, we shouldn't do too much respect. Like, she's thinking more along the lines of what it means for them to survive, because it's not just his ass that's having, blasters or weapons being pointed at him. It's her as well,
Yeah, it
because
almost feels
she's
like you should
supporting him.
flip their perspectives. Like
I
Boba
agree.
should be the one, like, no, let's kill them all. And Fennec is like talking him down
Yep.
and showing him that like it's not all violence that causes you to win. You can win in other ways and be a little bit more cunning. And instead it just I just want it doesn't really feel like also that that decision is a struggle, right? Because he's
Yes.
doing all these things and it's working out for him so far. Despite her saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this." It's like, well, it's been 3 episodes and he's getting along just fine. He had his back cracked in two by a Wookiee, but he's just fine.
Yeah, so we'll transition from the bad to the good. So in the yet again we get another scene
Flashback
of
to the tank.
flashback to Tank, yeah. Knowing that he's going into a flashback.
Do we need the 20-second introduction to every flashback ever? Like, it was the
We don't
same
need it at
clip as
all.
last week.
Yep, they're just copying pasting it, and so I think it's a slight waste of time. uh and at the same time, we get it. We understand what this back to
Right,
tank consists of for Boba
right.
Fett. He has these flashbacks every time he goes into the tank.
Like, when they transition and, like, it's all grainy and then it comes into clear,
Yep.
just do that.
Yeah,
Like, just cut
that's
from one
fine.
scene to the next or maybe fade in and fade out with that graininess, and then, like, "Oh, we're back in the flashback."
I wouldn't even care if it was super abrupt, like back to tank,
Yeah, the audience will figure it
face,
out.
grin. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit too like kindergartnery with this stuff. Like,
you're trying to hold your hand.
okay, viewers, we're going to the back to tank, and he's breathing inside the water. Okay, now we're gonna cut, and we're gonna get the film nice and grainy. It's gonna fade right into the nice
I mean, you
picture
might as
we
well, like,
want.
put a giant, like, "This is a flashback" at on the video.
Yeah,
Like,
be
it might
super
as well be the same thing.
amateur.
Yeah.
Like this is a flashback. Just in giant bold
5
yellow
years
text.
earlier.
Yeah, like throw some Monty Python stuff in there. Like at least try to be somewhat comical at that point. Because obviously, just it's yeah, like you're saying, I think it's a little insulting to us because we understand what's going on. But he gets ripped out of that back to tank uh, rather easily, and of course, it's by the kind Wookiee behind us here in the background, who is an absolute monster. And I wanted to see like true gladiator viciousness from him, and we didn't. We had a little like ring around the rosy with the teenagers. Like one of them had like walked up all slow like, and just like tried to like gank him in the back. And granted, he was stabbed a few times and refused to go down.
Yeah.
And Boba has gotten knocked like 10 feet across the room into a rack of weapons into the back tank itself, continues to get up
Yeah, like, you
and
heard his
fight.
ribs cracking when he was being
Yeah,
squeezed, like, there was a sound effect, like, he is
yeah,
really messed up, and you made a point before we were recorded too that, like, in episode 1, when he gets attacked and, like, barely hit, he has to be, like, rushed to the back to tank because he's clearly, like, not up for it, and
yeah.
now he gets fucking destroyed, and he's totally fine. He's
Yeah, he
walking
he
around
comes
like
out
it's
in his
nothing.
bathrobes
Yeah.
like like what's going on here sort of thing. Oh, we captured him in the Rancor pit. Cool. It just like you were saying, they're just the continuity isn't on point as it should be here.
Yeah.
Like he should have been, barely like limp, like kind of just like
Yeah.
wheezing, like kind of like humped over, like and like on like one knee, kind of hanging over, like I just took a beating there. Like that's a reason to recover in the back to tank, not
Yeah.
some you know squeamish assassination attempt in the streets where you've got your armor on.
Right.
They've got some shields. Like maybe he was dehydrated and just needed some Pedialyte from
I
the
just
back tank. I
out in
don't know.
the sun too much.
Yeah, but yeah, the Tatooine heat, was just a little bit too much from it, especially with his helmet on. Like, he it just maybe he needs to get his insulation checked. But um, so I want to say, for the sake of Chrysanthemum here, like, dude is a savage, and I really hope this isn't the last we've seen of him. Of course, we had the
No,
same idea
it won't
about,
be.
yeah, like he lets him. The Huts give him as a tribute.
Yep.
Nice of them. And Boba's like, "You're free to go," and I'm like, "Bro, you want to
He, like
start a war with
he, like, waltzes off
teenagers
screen.
and just like, yeah, jogs off screen all
What was
casual,
like,
like."
what was the direction there? Like, You're in the middle of nowhere. What is running gonna do for you? Like,
I don't know who the actor is that's in like
I don't
in the
know,
suit,
but
but
it
it's
just
like
looks so funny.
he's like reading the script, run in this direction off screen, and
Yeah.
he just does that. Like there's an arrow on the ground, like run here. He just runs over. It was kind of odd, but I get it. Because I'm pretty sure they weren't like on an actual like outdoor
Just ran off the
set.
green screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds about right.
But we had the same idea. We're pretty sure that he's going to pull the life debt card and come back in because honestly, Boba Fett's going to need Chrysanthemum to
Yeah.
assist with this alleged war.
Yeah.
If it's going to happen at all, and it might be one episode if that, but
This
so
feels
let's
very much like a Chekhov's gun situation where,
yeah
at the very end, like comes back or something like that. Or no,
yep
what is not Chekhov's gun? What's the other term? Deus Ex Machina.
yeah that's another one. He's going to pull a Han Solo in
Yes,
A New Hope.
exactly.
I gotta go pay off this bounty on my head, but I'm gonna come back and save you from the from Darth Vader killing you, Luke. So let's talk a little bit about the flashback because this was again we're kind of getting
quick.
into the things that we like. It was shorter, but there was an emotional touch to it because we got to see more of Boba's growth as a character. You know, obviously no talking at all involved this time, which I liked because it was just watch, absorb, feel,
Yeah.
and they hit. I think they hit the nail on the head with that sort of that whole segment.
Yeah, and something else that they introduced was that it's the Pike Syndicate is in
Yes.
both.
Yep.
And so, he's dealt with them before and had issues with them in the past, and
Yep.
now he's had issues with them again in the future. And so it's like we talked about how they were gonna connect the flashback to the present, and our
Now we
thought
know.
was that the Tuscans would be on his side, and no, they got women and children too.
Yep.
Um,
They got Anakin.
they got Anakin's. And then, but really, it's the Pike Syndicate. That's kind of, I think, the full circle is that the Pike Syndicate was supplying these raiders
Yeah.
and refused to help him. They were already helping the raiders and or not the raiders. I shouldn't call them raiders because Tuscan Raiders, but the whatever that gang is that killed all of his
Oh,
friends.
the Nikto soup gang.
That yes,
Yeah.
so they're supplying them. So that he already hates the Pike Syndicate for that, and now the Pike Syndicate is working with the mayor, which we've just been introduced. And finally, after 3 episodes, it seems like we've got our big bad, which is the Pike Syndicate. I think.
Yeah, I like some of the information we got there, especially with like the breakdown, who's controlling what parts of the city.
Yeah, I thought that was a little too heavy exposition, but it makes sense. Like Boba doesn't know who controls parts of the city, so like it's not.
The one thing I'm curious though too, again because of the word Trandoshans or Trandoshans, however you want to pronounce them, um, because they control part of the I think it was the inner city. I wonder if we could see Bosk again.
Probably. I think we will.
I think so. And I wonder if there would be any sort of conflict because Trandoshans and Wookiees do not get along.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, so I wonder. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen here, and they could include. As much as I would like to see it, I don't know if they will because of just again, it's sort of like the choices that get made from the top down. So, they might do something stupid like include Vespas in an episode instead of having another badass bounty hunter appear. But who are we to write the show? But I think learning how much the Tuscans' deaths had an effect on Boba. Again, it spoke more to his character because we don't really know how much time has passed with him learning and kind of being accustomed to their ways. But it was enough that again you can see this. He wears that black those black drabs under his
Yeah.
armor,
Yeah.
and again, it's sort of like a remembrance thing, I think, to him. And there's one of the Tuscans that they didn't show the body of. There was like the
Oh, really?
main
I missed
chieftain,
that.
and I think it's like the other leader, which
Gotcha.
it seems like more of like a female body. But it's the one from the second episode where the Tuscan like flies in on the speeder bike and like jumps in the train and starts like just doing all
Gotcha,
that badass
gotcha.
stuff.
So maybe he
It's
stuck around or something.
Yeah, again, I don't know if it's male or female Tuscan,
Right.
but that Tuscan Raider, or that Tuscan, whatever, um, the body was not seen. The other thing I didn't see either was the youngling Tuscan.
So they
But they
didn't
did see
show it,
his
but
stick.
yes, exactly. So I think they are
So
implying that he is dead. They
that
just
he's
didn't wanna show
dead.
a dead child.
I mean, look, George Lucas wrote into that
That's
Anakin
true.
slaughtered, the women and the children. Like I slaughtered them like animals. Like that's pretty dark. We've already
Yeah,
heard it once. Just
yeah.
come out and say it again. Come on,
Yeah,
John
it feels like
or
Disney is
Robert. Like,
yeah, it feels like Disney's a little too, and just like Boba Fett, maybe a little bit too soft with this show.
yeah,
Like, it's not quite dark enough given the subject matter and characters within it. Like, you mentioned that, the Wookiee scene, that could have been much more brutal than it
God, I wish it
was, but
was.
the action just seemed a little, it didn't seem very intense, I guess? No, faster, more intense.
Yeah,
It didn't seem very gritty. It felt kind of fakey, like it was clearly a dude in a costume kinda thing.
yeah, yep.
I don't know. And maybe that's just the direction of it. Maybe it's not really that they're trying to avoid violence. It's just Robert Rodriguez does not direct action very well. That could be it. But
That could be it.
both of those, the speeder scene and the Wookiee fight scene were a little bit hokey to me.
They could have been better for sure. I think for the sake of again what we got, it is what it is. Like the ideas there. Chrysanthemum, and again, when he had those brass and spike knuckles on, and he just laid that one Gamorrean out cold. I was like, oh shit!
Yeah,
Like
that was pretty cool.
that was cool. And then he goes to the other one and just like bites him like right in the neck, and then tosses him over. And I'm like, yes, let's see more of this. And then trapdoor. I'm like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
come on,
And you just happen
Fennec.
to be on the trapdoor conveniently.
Right, exactly. There's that trope there. So I want to say the other cool part that I liked, unexpected, of course, was that we see a Rancor calf
Yeah.
show up as a present, a gift from the Hutt twins. Since they're fleeing again, we get the name Hutta, in this episode. So it's the planet for the Hutts, for those who aren't aware. And they say why they're leaving. Again, we all have put the pieces together from this episode, or what pieces we can rather, about the syndicate involved, and there's this territory is promised to someone else. And at first I didn't recognize who that was on the little
Here's
platform that the
Machete.
rank is. Yeah. Mr. Machete himself, the one and
Of
only
course.
Danny
Like,
Trejo.
if anything, if we got anything great from Robert Rodriguez doing a Star Wars show, it's that we have Danny Trejo in Star Wars.
So let me ask you, what do you think Danny asked to be in this, or did they ask Danny to be in this?
Probably Robert Rodriguez asked him.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a gag at this point. Like he has to be in everything that Rodriguez does, and so
Yeah.
it may not even. It may just be like a silent nod of agreement that they give each other.
Possibly.
Like he gives him a call. He's like, "So I'm doing this Boba Fett show," and he's like, "All right, when do you need me?" I
Yeah,
know
pretty
what this
much.
means.
Yep. So he's the Rancor trainer, and
Yep.
the scene that we get in the pit area, the trainer, I'm just going to call him Danny because I don't think he has a name. It's just trainer, but so Danny Trejo says they're affectionate creatures. They're emotional, right?
Yeah, that was a neat little callback, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
So
in Return of the Jedi, when it dies and like the handler is like crying.
yep, yep. And so bearing that in mind, when he's talking to Boba and he's saying when they see the first person that they see, they develop a bond essentially, right? And they become very attached and affectionate to them. And we also get a callback to um, the Witches of Dathomir,
Yes. Yes,
which
that was cool.
was really great.
Yep.
Again, for those of you who don't know who the Witches of Dathomir are, Dathomir is a planet where characters like Asajj Ventress have come from.
Yep.
Very very prominent in the Clone Wars, the animated series. Um, so that was really cool to actually
Yep.
hear in a live action sense.
Yep.
Because I always wish we would have seen Asajj Ventress in live action. That would have been
Yeah, she
pretty
would have been
dope.
pretty badass.
Yeah. Uh, so when I'm thinking about that, and the blindfolds are removed, and you can kind of see like this dazed look from the Rancor's perspective to Boba, and he's kind of scratching like a dog, right?
Yep.
And
Like a pit bull, right?
yeah, like a bulldog, maybe, the biggest
The
French
folds.
bulldog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. It's like a hybrid.
I was
Eh,
thinking like pit bulls because they get a bad rap, but they're actually
that's
like
true.
really sweet underneath.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, the reputation of a pit bull with the look of a bulldog.
Yes.
Um, and I for a second I'm like, oh, that would actually be cool. And he's like, cool. I'm gonna start training to ride it today.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa, whoa! Hold, Boba, hold on, bro. You just got tossed around like a fucking rag doll by
Yeah, where's the
Chrysanthemum.
back this thing?
Yeah. I'm like, so we know that obviously a lot of time did not pass between that. So, um, and again, like continuity, it is what it is. He leaves because his protocol droid's like, hey, you got a situation with the mayor, and when he leaves, the Rancor is kind of like eyeing him as he leaves, and
Right.
then Danny Trejo goes, "Don't worry, he'll be back." Like
Yeah, I
all
couldn't
devious, like
yeah, I couldn't figure out if that was supposed to be like "Don't worry, doggy," like he'll be right back,
right.
or like "You're gonna eat him later." I don't know.
Yeah, because as much as I would love to see another montage clip of Boba learning how to ride a Rancor, and again that would be fantastic. Um, I wonder if the twins essentially set like a trap. We're going to give him a Rancor. We're going to set a trainer, but the Rancor's already seen the trainer. Therefore, the Rancor's already developed a bond with the trainer. And when the moment's right, the Rancor is going to kill Boba. That's maybe what their thought process was.
Yeah, I
And then it
that
backfires, and then the Rancor
and
actually
he's
develops a
riding it.
bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Rancor eats Danny Trejo. That's kind of what I'm going with.
Fair
You
enough.
know,
There's
so
gonna be some scene at some point that'll be like Captain America using Thor's hammer, except it's gonna be Boba Fett riding a Rancor.
yes,
That's
yep,
happening. Like,
yep.
there's no way you set that up and you don't pay that off.
If I don't see a Rancor straight up eating someone or ripping a body in half while it's in its mouth, I'm going to be extremely disappointed and not recommend that episode to people to watch. I'm like, you
Just
can watch
ditch
it,
the whole show.
but just turn it off. Like, there's a Rancor, yeah, but it doesn't eat anyone. So what the fuck's the point of being in there?
Just like
Sorry.
Boba Fett, he doesn't do anything bad anymore.
We saw the Rancor swallow someone in Return of the Jedi. Don't scuff us, Lucasfilm, on some more soft crap here. We already got robbed with 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 Chrysanthemum ripping off arms of someone. Look, and maybe I'll take that comment back. if he comes back to help Boba in the war, and again, like rips the arms off some sort of syndicate. Like there's probably a shit ton of syndicate people that are worthless and expendable that Crescendi could just go on an arm ripping spree, you know, and have fun with it. And look, just give a warning before the show starts. If
Not
you know,
suitable for children under the age of
yeah,
12.
yeah, like
Yeah.
just who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like there's far more violent content on Disney Plus than
Yeah, it's
that.
weird, right?
So
Yeah.
right, like again, Disney, what are you doing? Come on. But yeah, no, I mean, again, I wasn't expecting to see a Rancor, so it was really cool. I liked seeing that. The guest appearance by Danny Trejo,
Yep.
that was cool. I never would have expected in a million years to see Danny Trejo in
I know.
any Star Wars
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
because it just does not. You wouldn't put those two together, and the fact that
Yeah.
we got that is out of this world.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was cool.
and again, more huts on screen. That may be the last time we'll see the huts, but oh well.
I feel like they'll be back, because why even introduce them if they're just gonna leave 2 episodes later? But I don't know.
Maybe they come
There's
back
a lot of
once
stuff in the
the
show that
war.
doesn't make sense. So
Yeah, like maybe after everyone's killed each other, that the hut they come back. They're like, oh look, everyone's dead. This Tatooine's ours now. Like they're just
yeah,
like playing the waiting game. Like we're
maybe.
gonna, so. But the last thing I'll say is we've had 2 references now about Tatooine once being filled with water
Yeah,
and it being a fascinating story. And I'm like, so
I don't know
are
if
they
they're
going to
going
tell that
anywhere with that,
story? Yeah,
or
like, or what's the point? Like we get it. Boba was raised on a planet that was nothing but water. So, now he's on a planet that's nothing but sand.
I don't like sand.
Yeah, sand gets in everywhere. And at least water dries at least, sand just gets everywhere. But you have anything else that you liked or didn't like about the show?
No, I think we kind of covered most of it. Again, this episode was okay. I mean, it held my interest, but there was just far too much eye rolling from me this week.
Yeah. Uh, I don't even know what I would rate this episode.
Like a 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere between like a 6.5 round
Yeah,
there. But again, weakest of the 3. Hopefully, it starts to ramp up and get a little bit more involved.
yeah,
I want a little bit longer episodes as well. That second episode that had a
was
really good
very long.
length.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was the same length as the first episode. But again, since this is most likely a limited series, so we might not get a second season of this. We've got, I think, 6 episodes left. So at that point, if you're going to rush the story, you might need a little bit longer time per episode. So that'll also be a very curious thing. It's something I always look at. I'm like, how long is this episode? 38 minutes. So that means it's probably about just over 30 to 32 minutes worth of actual film.
yeah,
Because, the rest is intro, recap,
yeah.
and then all the credits. So, which take up a chunk of time. So I'm curious. I know this season is sort of mixed, and it's getting a lot of comparison to how Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 are, which at this rate, I'd say Mandalorian season 1 and 2 might be a little bit more interesting. Although the second season of Mandalorian, there's that second episode with the spiders and the ice planet. A lot of people didn't really like that episode.
Yeah.
So I think, again, there's gonna be episodes where everyone doesn't like something in a season. And I
I
think
mean, I'm
this is
not a
this episode.
huge. I didn't really love Mandalorian season 2 in general. And so like I like season 1 okay. Season 2 didn't really do it for me, and then this is meh. If the rest of the episodes are like the second episode, I will love this. But so far, 2 out of 3 are not so great. So I don't have very high hopes.
I think there's something else we can talk about once we get to the finale of the show and/or season, to look at what episodes are directed by whom.
Yeah,
and then basing
Rodriguez
them
has
at
one more. He's got one more to go.
right. So I'm curious, and then in deciding on which episodes are good based on who's directed them. But so we shall see. But I think that'll about do it for us here. Again, we'll see where the season goes. You can catch us next week covering Boba Fett, or rather the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4 here in the Real Hero Show. So until then, we'll see everyone on the next video. Peace.